Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines. We've got ISDA, Ripple, and derivatives over $1 quadrillion worth of settlement and so much more. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube for exclusive content. Right now, $1.1 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is off by 1.9%. Good afternoon. 26,400 plus for Bitcoin, 1,600 plus for Ethereum. Tethered market cap's 82.5 billion. XRP's 51 cents. We're off by 1.7 in the 24-hour. But let me tell you, if you haven't had a chance to do it, it's Ripple, baby. Private equity. How much longer can you get it? I don't know, but we're going to look at some stuff about valuation of Ripple and where XRP could play a role in that valuation. Key things to look at today. Let's take a look at this right here. Click the link for link 2 if you want to get private equity like Ripple underneath and check out our sponsor. Stuart Alderati says lawyers should never again be told don't poke the bear, since it seems that it's the only way to stop these unelected bureaucrats from pushing their failed political agendas. Oh my, oh my. Stuart Alderati is on fire, and he nails it there. Now, I have to move quickly because we have a lot to see. Saudi Arabia leads real-time payments revolution in the Middle East. I'm showing you this to remind everyone about the idea that BRICS coalition has now invited Saudi Arabia to join to be an official member starting January 1, 2024. When they come, United Arab Emirates and Iran come, 80% of the world's production will be inside of BRICS. Make sure you pay attention. Those are big numbers. And they talked about, had a conversation, an incredible conversation with Andy Schectman, who said that if you take BRICS with every one of the new members, they have a bigger GDP, all of BRICS together, than the G7. Now, that's quite a statement right there. So there's a lot to come on that. Now, let's talk about ISO 20022 adoption really quickly. So if we look at this from Chad Steingraber here, shout out to Chad, within 6 months, a bank survey says, or less, the ISO 20022 will be adopted by 41% globally, 52% nationally, I guess, and 40% EU. This is pretty remarkable. Further indication of the region getting ready for instant services via FedNow, FedWire, chips, and associated migration to the ISO standard. He's absolutely right here. This chart, these charts and graphs, which I'm not going to go into, but you get the point. The ISO 20022 is a standardization, just like we saw in the shipping industry. All the ports were designed to be the same. All the cranes were designed to be the same. All the containers were designed to be the same. The ships were now made to be able to carry the containers in a certain way. That standardization, that uniformity has changed the way the world trades globally forever. And the same thing is happening now in finance and messaging and payments. And this is a great sign of that and what's to come. And so is this as far as I'm concerned. Now, you remember this back in early August when we talked about Ripple joins ISDA, the International Swaps and Derivatives Association, alongside R3. Remember, R3 was in a partnership years ago with Ripple, had a $5 billion XRP options contract that was set up and pre-allocated to them. Now, they had a falling out between the two companies, and they went to court and settled under a sealed settlement. We don't know what the terms were, but what we do know is that they both are really contributing to help settle more than $1 quadrillion worth of derivatives on the ISDA Association. So this is interesting because we're not conspiracy theorists anymore. That's what they're there to do. Take a listen to this clip here on this promo.
The derivatives market. The derivatives market is safer and more transparent than ever before. But the infrastructure that supports it is complex, disjointed, and costly to maintain. Managing basic processes throughout the life of a trade is manually intensive. Each firm has developed its own way of describing common events, like trade termination, compression, or the exercise of an option. This increases the potential for inconsistencies between firms. Constantly correcting this is a big drain on resources and is not sustainable. Fortunately, new technologies such as distributed ledger and smart contracts offer the potential for greater automation and efficiency, reducing complexity and costs. But effective automation can only be built on standardization. If each technology uses its own set of representations for trade events, then we'll simply recreate the existing disjointed infrastructure. To realize the full potential of these technologies, we need a common representation of trade events. That's where the ISDA Common Domain model comes in. ISDA's aim is to create a comprehensive standard digital blueprint for how derivatives are traded and managed right across the life cycle of a trade. The ISDA CDN will enhance consistency across firms and platforms, providing a bedrock of standards upon which new technologies can be applied. The derivatives market is on the cusp of a technology revolution. The ISDA CDN will help realize that potential.
And there you have it. And look, he's talking about the same thing I've said millions of times on this channel, which is that if you just tokenize and digitize everything, you haven't solved the problem. You've just made the friction in the paper world digital. This is why there has to be some kind of intermediary between these things. Now, very quick clip here. This is a discussion happening with ISDA about moving derivatives on a distributed ledger technology like the Corda platform.
Really looking at the most common scenarios, the most common contractual frameworks that exist within our industry. I think the introduction of DLT to derivatives trading is unlikely to present many significant issues. And indeed, the paper does attempt to take a really practical approach and look at these issues from the perspective of two of the most common scenarios that you may see in our industry. So looking at the first one, I think this image will seem very familiar to anybody who's any familiarity whatsoever with ISDA documentation. And in this example here, what this is really intending to illustrate is, parties entering into an ISDA master agreement, entering into transactions under that ISDA master agreement, and within those transactions, certain obligations, in this instance, payments, are intended to be automated, again, in this example, on the R3 Corda platform. And I think this would be relatively simple and straightforward to implement on Corda in the manner that Jason has suggested.
And there you have it. He's telling you how easy it would be and basically discussing that there would not be a significant amount of issues to move these assets over onto the DLT of Corda platform, distributed ledger technology. Now, let's take a look at this. We're going to jump in now to this is an incredible video here discussing the possible IPO valuation of Ripple and the comparison given here, just to let you know where we are and the timing of this market. Let me set this up for us here. Okay, so now with all of what we've seen, ISDA $1.2 quadrillion, there was a recent event that happened this past weekend where there was Link2 members getting together for a meetup and discussing the possible interesting outlooks on an IPO valuation of Ripple. I want you to listen to this quick clip here and hear what Linda P. Jones says. Shout out to her for her insights and perspectives. 1 second.
Ago. I mean, it is an incredible buy still. And that's why we say, don't pay attention to what is the share price. Some people say, oh, it's expensive because it's a $40 share price. But it's not the price of the share, it's the value of the company that you want to look at, because a valuation of something like $6.6 billion with Ripple has the potential to IPO at a much greater value. So just as a comparative measure, some of you have heard me say this. How many people have heard me do that level of calculation? Some of you? Thank you. So we can compare Ripple to other companies that are like companies, that are similar companies. And that's kind of hard to do, except for one company, and that's Coinbase, that was on the Link2 platform and went public at a valuation of $86 billion. So Ripple being at $6.6 billion right now, and Coinbase going public at $86 billion, that's more than 10 times where Ripple is right now. So that's why I say, I think, in my opinion, in my personal opinion, I think that the potential for Ripple could be more than a 10-time improvement in your initial investment. So if you invested $10,000 in Ripple, it could become a $100,000 investment. And that's just if it doesn't do as well as Coinbase did. If it does better than Coinbase, which it could, and it could for one very important reason, And that is because right now Ripple holds their XRP asset at zero value on their balance sheet. So there's no value right now for XRP on the Ripple balance sheet. So if Ripple does value XRP at 50 cents today, or whatever it is selling at today, or if they're able to give it a higher valuation because it moves up from where it is today, if it went to its old highs at roughly probably DAI could tell me
384.
384, thank you, Jackie. 384. That put us at over a 14x valuation, where $10,000 invested could become $140,000. So the potential with Ripple, I think, is one of the best on the Link2 platform.
There you have it, but we're not done with you yet. I want you to listen to this awesome exchange here between Joseph Indoso and Cool Show right here. Shout out to Rob. I want you to hear this clip. Take a listen.
My belief is that when we clear these legal hurdles and XRP can begin to normalize its use case, then you're going to see what Brad is talking about, right? Where institutions, not just retail speculators or holders, but institutions look upon it as an alternative currency, which was exactly what it was designed to be, as a means of transacting international payments. It's at that point that you're going to begin to see how that alternative currency behaves relative to existing fiat currencies, and look at those spreads and find some sort of meaningful reason for why spreads are a certain way versus the dollar, versus the Aussie dollar, versus this, versus that. Today, it's all, it's just all abstract.
It's what Bill Brow called on stage, y'all remember, when he goes, we don't really like all the noise. That's not the use case for Ripple. It's in thinly traded institutional stuff. That's not why we're here. So my question though, Joe, is it better for XRP or Ripple to go public at a higher price, or if the market is not allowed to, the price of Ripple minus the institutional adoption for which it was created remains separated before IPO, how the hell do you evaluate a company that's not even doing what it's built to do? If all it's doing is trading thinly loud noise retail investors, and then it goes public, and then they flip the switch, that doesn't make any sense. Or it shorts Ripple. They need to let us see what the actual value is, and not what some reported price is, based on 2% of the minnows flopping around in the fishbowl. They need to show us what the value is, and then value the company, and then go IPO.
Yeah.
Would make sense to me.
Yeah. The other reason too, and people don't think about this, right? I mean, obviously there's a powerful incentive on the part of the shareholders of Ripple today, and especially the early investors of VC funds, to want a public listing because they need liquidity.
That's a great point that Joe Indoso makes, as well as Rob Cunningham there. How do you have an IPO where the XRP is really currently, as we understand it, I think it was last October or somewhere around that time frame, we heard Brad Garlinghouse mention that they keep XRP at $0 value on their balance sheet. So how would that work if they go for an IPO? I mean, I kind of look at it like Chevron and the oil they've pumped out of the ground in a warehouse. They certainly wouldn't have that oil listed at $0, I would imagine, if they were going to IPO. What would that XRP, how would that factor in, and what does it mean if XRP price goes crazy before the Ripple IPO? Would they factor that valuation in? Just one step further here, Rob Cunningham brings a post on top of this clip here to share it out. And he says, if we're only left to accept or worse, assume the XRP price reporting that reflects a tiny, loud retail trading activity and mostly excludes the powerful, massive global institutional utility value for which Ripple was created, then the real value of XRP tokens publicly accounted for as assets held in escrow on the Ripple books and currently valued at $0 according to Brad Garlinghouse. The IPO value of Ripple under those circumstances would cheat current shareholders and grossly undervalue Ripple share if an IPO value proceeded with a public price at 53 cents and Ripple XRP value at $0. There's a great point there that Rob's asking. Will Ripple value the XRP at market value at the time of the IPO? Because if so, it will change the valuation of that company. So if 42 billion escrowed XRP tokens were merely valued at $10 per token and nothing else was considered, then Ripple would have a $420 billion book value, which is approximately 64 times higher than the implied $6.6 billion market cap for Ripple shares available to accredited investors today at Link2. This is a great question, but it also points to me that it's such an incredible buy for accredited investors right now to get a hold of Ripple. And you can do that with the link underneath the video to Link2 to buy that, no questions asked. But I want to leave with this because look, there's a reason I'm showing you ISO 20022 standardization, the ISDA, International Swaps and Derivatives Association, the connection between R3, the Quarter platform. We know that the Quarter platform and R3 have shown multiple times XRP can work significantly and easily on that platform as a bridge asset and a settlement asset. Very, very easily fit in on that scenario, as will others in the future. But look at the size of what we're talking about with market here in just a couple areas. This is from Ripple themselves, and I want you to see what they say here. It says the token life cycle in the Internet of Value. What does the life cycle journey look like for tokenized assets? Tokenized and asset ownership rights of that asset are converted into a unique digital token that represents its value on the blockchain. 80% of global finance leaders think tokenization will have a big impact. Trading tokenized assets like stocks and bonds. Well, that's what ISDA is. That's why Ripple has joined that and R3 as well, I believe. $18 billion total market size of all tokenized assets. Manage. The token can be used to trade, transfer ownership, make a payment, lend, borrow, etc. in exchange or marketplace. $50 billion total DeFi market cap as of February 2023. Enterprise finance leaders are familiar with using blockchain solutions for finance to trade, borrow, lend, tokenize real-world assets. Move with increased liquidity, the token's value can be used in the form of digital currency and moved around the world in real time 24/7, 365. Look at this number. $250 trillion plus expected cross-border payments value by just 2027, which is just, 4 years from now. This is remarkable. 3.5 years from now. I got to tell you, this is why I'm here. Look, I'll be happy about $1 XRP. I'll be happy about $10, $20, $25 and the rest of it. But this is the ultimate goal. This is what they've set out to do. And it is a matter now of whether they capture what percentage. It's not if they're going to do it. It's going to be a matter of what percentage they're able to capture. And that's the fascinating part of this. And I'm glad that I've got the awareness, and you do too, that we get to watch it happen with our eyes wide open the entire time. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.